Hey, it's JK. Welcome valued members of the Knifu Nation to the next in our line of throwing knife-based challenge runs, and today I'm going back to one of the most popular games of the 90s. Back then, Rare were pumping out smash hits for the Nintendo 64. Diddy Kong Racing, Banjo Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64, Conkers Bad Fur Day, Perfect Dark, the list goes on and on. Honestly, it was the first time I actually remember being really fascinated by a specific game dev studio. But no game they made was more beloved than Goldeneye 007, also known as Goldeneye 64. This game was a huge hit back then and was one of the first FPS games to pull off home console multiplayer successfully. But we're not here to do multiplayer today. Today, we're going to try out this game's throwing knives and see if we can beat the entire one-player mode with them. Now, the first question is, how do we even get throwing knives? They aren't present in most of the levels in this game. Well, actually, the game has its own built-in cheats that were unlocked by beating the levels in certain times under specific difficulties. And wouldn't you know it, one of the cheats is starting with double throwing knives. So that's one issue solved, but there is of course another issue: ammo. Using the cheat, we start with 10 total throwing knives, which isn't a whole lot really, and there's only one level in the whole campaign which has additional knives to pick up. But it's not quite as bad as it sounds. When you throw the knives, you can actually pick them back up again off the ground. Sometimes. Sometimes they just clip through the scenery or just outright disappear. And on levels where there's no walls and barriers, yeah, those knives are gonna go pretty quick. Not a knife time for us at all. So the question becomes, can we beat each level with just the 10 knives that we start with? There were quite a lot of problems on this run, some that I saw coming, and many which I never would have predicted, probably partly because it's the first time I've played this game in over 20 years. Well, let's find out how deep a cut this challenge is going to be. So, the first level is Damn, as in, damn, it's good to be playing this game again. Conveniently, we don't need to actually kill every single enemy, and sometimes running past the guards is a totally viable strategy for both progress and conserving ammo. So, let's talk about these knives. The damage from them is pretty solid. The aiming, though, is quite fiddly to say the least. Even aiming with the reticle doesn't guarantee you're going to hit the target. Dual wielding them is also a bit problematic as they alternate which hand throws, and you need to remember which hand is going to throw next as they have different trajectories. Messing this up means you totally miss the target altogether, and it should go without saying, but throwing the knives is a lot slower than firing a gun. But all of that pales in comparison to the real problem waiting at the end of this level. This padlock. You need to destroy it to complete the level, but knives can't destroy it, or any other destructible objects found in the levels for that matter, including computer consoles, mainframes, barrels, or drone guns. Now, I thought maybe, just maybe, I could get the guards to shoot it for me, but no dice. I can actually see the bullets hitting it, but they do nothing. After trying that for no joke about an hour, I did some research and found that there apparently is a way to get some guards to open this gate, but you can only get their attention by firing a gun. So it appears the run is over. You can't beat the game with throwing knives. Thanks for watching. Nah, I'm just kidding. Let's be real here. Many missions ahead require you to use gadgets on certain objects or blow things up with mines to complete objectives, so I think, for the sake of progress, it's fair to allow guns or mines to destroy objects needed to complete said objectives. But I can still only kill enemies with throwing knives. That seems fair. With this amendment to the rules, I destroy the lock, run across to these stairs, and then jump off the edge. Crazy that Bond jumps down head first with no parachute and no rope. He's gonna have brain damage after that fall. Well, onto level 2, Facility. A classic level with an absolute banger of a soundtrack. Getting to interrupt a Russian soldier while he's taking a shit is peak gameplay. It took me a while to remember what I was actually doing on this level. I also discovered another of the knive's biggest weaknesses: soldiers ducking down. I then had to restart the level because these guys destroyed the console, which opens the door to let you progress. There was no consoling me after that failure. Don't you just love it when you throw a knife so hard it causes someone to spin round in a 180? Once again though, actually trying to hit these soldiers with knives proves quite tricky. Missing a throw when there's 3 or 4 soldiers on you at once is devastating as they unleash a barrage of bullets into Bond. Trying to fight them actually seemed to work out worse for me than just trying to run through here, so I opted to do that for the initial part and then pick off the stragglers following me. Some clutch body armor really helped with this, along with this narrow doorway. With the way cleared, I sped on through, making it to the room with Trevelyan and the tanks we need to destroy. With little health remaining, I slapped the remote mines onto the tanks, blew them up, and then ran to this conveyor belt which helped to facilitate our escape. Level 3 is Runway, and this is probably one of the smallest and easiest levels in the whole game. I didn't even technically need to kill anyone here, as you can just run, grab the key and run to the plane, but I of course wasn't going to miss the opportunity to hit a soldier in the balls with a knife. I definitely intended to do that and wasn't just throwing frantically trying to get him. Honest. Anyhow, we run way down the end of this level and get into the plane to fly the hell out of there. For our next mission, we're heading to Severnaya, which I was surprised to learn is actually a real place. This level is called Surface, and it's actually the first of 2 times it shows up. The mission here is pretty straightforward. We just have to make our way to this big old building here and power down the communications dish. With that done, we make our way to the end of the level, but do get attacked by a big gaggle of guards who actually don't go down to just one throwing knife. Thanks to a lot of misses, this actually ended up being pretty close, and I killed the last one with only a sliver of health remaining. We then climb the ladder to be greeted by our old nemesis, padlocks. Even though I knew it was all for naught, I still chucked a knife at one of them for good measure. Yeah, it did nothing. I should have just taken it on surface value, but regardless, we blast the locks and clear the level. Going down takes us to the bunker level, again a level that will show up again a little later on. We pop out of the starting door and instantly pop a guard right in the face with a knife. I then quickly take the picture of the Goldeneye screen and copy the Goldeneye key, only to find myself surrounded by guards. Thankfully, there's another exit to this room that... Ah, crap. Okay, back out the other way. I ran for my life to get to the end of the level, and actually still nearly died trying to take out these 2 guards by the door. After trying and failing very miserably to kill them despite being up close, I decided to just run and open the door and get out of there. That was definitely a bung curveball those guards weren't expecting. So after a couple of easy missions, we're onto one with a bit more challenge, Silo. Part of the reason is there's just quite a lot of guards here. Objectives are pretty straightforward, just photograph the satellite and avoid scientist casualties. I did actually take some pretty heavy damage, courtesy of some machine gun fire and some exploding barrels. On the positive side though, I felt like I got way better at actually hitting enemies with the knives here. Definitely the first time I came away thinking I got some good shots in. The last section got a bit hectic and I decided to try run through, but sadly got killed by an exploding computer console just as I got to the satellite I needed to photograph. Well, that sucks. After another try at running through, I realized the enemies weren't just going to let me silo my way past them, so it seems some good old-fashioned killing is required. I followed through with that plan right up until the last section, where I beelined through and managed to snap a picture of the satellite. I then chased Urumov out, knifing a few soldiers on the way before just making it to the escape lift without getting killed. I might have died if I'd slowed down even for a second there. Our next destination is Frigate. Here, we've got hostages to rescue and a tracking bug to plant on a helicopter. How easy is it to rescue the hostages with throwing knives? Not very. Also, bullets do more damage to me as the game goes on. Who knew? This hostage in the control room is particularly troublesome to save, as even if you kill the guard with the gun on the hostage, which is about all I have time to do with the knives, the other guards destroy the consoles which blow up and kill said hostage anyway. The good news is losing one hostage isn't an instant fail, and there are some hostages which are in smaller rooms with just one guard on them, making them a lot easier to save. With a few of the hostages set free-gate, it's just a quick run to slap the tracker bug on the helicopter and then make our way back to our little motorboat. Hey look, we even get to see Bond putting the knife away in the cutscene. Well, time for those repeat levels I was talking about earlier. We're back to surface once again. Similar to the last one, the goal here is to shut down the communications and then gain entry to the bunker. I actually failed this on my first try because I went to interact with the console thinking it would disable it, only for the objective to insta-fail because I guess I actually activated the communication link instead. On my second try, I then for some reason couldn't get in the room with the communication link despite having killed all the guards I killed last time, so I'm not really sure what happened there. On my third attempt, I made it to the communication link much more quickly. I obviously can't destroy it with throwing knives despite my best efforts, but I didn't have to resort to using my own gun here. By luring a few guards close and carefully positioning myself near the console, I just get them to shoot it instead for a nice workaround. With that done, All that was left to do was for me to run around the level like a headless chicken for about 5 minutes until I finally found the entrance to the bunker. The guards unfortunately weren't best pleased about me tricking them to destroy their own communications and threatened to sever my head from my body. So onwards to Bunker 2, the one level where we can actually get throwing knives, but one where they're really not necessary. Using the watch magnet, we snag the key and I then fail to chuck knives at this guard. Luckily, he also decides just to not shoot me for some reason. Okay then, what a knife guy. At this point, I also realize that sometimes just holding a single knife is better from an aiming perspective, as at least I don't have to keep track of which hand is going to throw the knife next. One thing I do still need to keep track of though is Natalia, as we need her to survive this level, and sometimes she struggles with the whole staying alive thing. I actually did take the time to kill a lot of the guards here, even though I probably didn't need to. Honestly, I don't trust Natalia, so better to be safe than sorry. Things were going well until Natalia got this countdown started and I realized I actually didn't have the CCTV tape needed for the first objective yet. After a quick run around, I was able to grab it and just make our way out of the bunker with barely over a second to spare. Good thing the guards by the entrance were bunking off this time. Well, onto what was one of the more confusing levels for me, Statue Park. I initially thought I was supposed to go through this gate, but apparently that just fails the level. It's kind of crazy how much I just don't remember of this game. This whole level is a twisting labyrinth of polygonal blocks and Soviet imagery. The guards here are again tougher and often won't go down to one knife. Anyway, after some searching around, i.e. running around aimlessly for 5 minutes, we managed to find Hagrid inside this shipping container. Not sure why he's decided to clean shave and shrink to a third of his normal height and put a suit on, but who am I to judge someone's life choices? Maybe he's just trying to keep me off my game. I then headed to the rendezvous point with Yanis, only for the mission to instantly fail and for Yanis's guards to start attacking me. Huh? Why does this keep happening? So apparently if you have any weapon out when you arrive at the meeting point, Yanis doesn't show up and that objective automatically fails. This includes throwing knives as well apparently. So next try I put them away and find out the big twist that Yanis is actually our old friend Alec Trevelyan. He sets a helicopter to explode with an unconscious Natalia next to it. It's a mad dash to get there, ignoring his entourage and their shotguns. I arrive, but the timer drops to just 15 seconds, which is thankfully enough time to rouse Natalia and get away. I then ran back into the park to grab the flight recorder, this time taking out some of these sunglass-wearing idiots. Why are you wearing sunglasses? It's nighttime. Well, no time to ponder that nonsense because we're getting arrested. We'll have to park that one for now as we choose what to do next. We're actually already halfway through the levels, isn't that mad? Archive starts us with a gun on a table, which we of course do not pick up as the guards forgot to confiscate our throwing knives. No wonder Mishkin was tricked by Oromov if he's making that kind of error. After having an actual nightmare trying to throwing knife this one guard who wasn't even that far away, I meet with Mishkin downstairs. Thankfully, he instantly forgives us for killing all those guards upstairs and gives us the flight recorder. With a bit of backtracking, I find Natalia and quickly dispatch the guards surrounding her. Now, normally we'd smash the windows in here to escape, but guess what? The knives do not break the glass. Fortuitously, however, one of the few guards who survived the earlier knife-based onslaught throws a grenade right next to the window. This both kills him and breaks the window open, letting us escape. Good, that place was pretty dirty. I think I've got arc hives all over my skin from being in there so long. So, just to be upfront, there isn't a great deal to say about these following two levels. Streets is pretty much just a lot of running. It's a much wider level than others, so running past the few guards is pretty easy. Probably should check before throwing knives though to prevent civilians getting taken out. Oops. I ran on past all the landmines, and despite all the mistreatment I received, I make it to the end of the level. Depot is also another one of these just get to the end kind of levels with not many obstacles in between. There's very few guards and not a lot going on. I guess they're all indeposed or something. But honestly, maybe having a couple chill levels was a good thing, because ladies and gentlemen, we are about to experience quite a difficulty spike in this run. Several of these levels up ahead I thought would be quite challenging, but train wasn't really one I had felt would give me a lot of trouble. Well, turns out I was wrong. Very wrong. I died more on train than probably all the other levels put together up to this point. and a lot of those deaths were just in these first 2 rooms. Right away, you're greeted with 4 guards with machine guns, and the only cover being wooden boxes which actually explode if they're shot a few times. The boxes definitely create a few problems for us. Trying to take out these guys with knives without losing much health is difficult. An issue with the knives I haven't really mentioned yet is how when you get shot it stuns you for a split second where you're not able to attack. With the speed of the knife throws being pretty slow compared to bullets, it can be difficult to actually just throw a knife when you're being shot repeatedly by multiple enemies. Even if you do get past those guards, the following room greets you with another 4 immediately, followed by another 5 right after that later in the room. As well as the far greater amount of enemies, the level is very narrow, so running through isn't really an option. The latter part of the second carriage at least provides you with a few indestructible crates, but I couldn't say that they help too much. The only strategy that works is you have to take them out really quickly, praying that every knife you throw hits and kills an enemy, otherwise things get really bad really quick. And what are you greeted by should you succeed in making it through these carriages without dying? More guards. This next section is even more narrow, but weirdly that almost makes it easier because the guards are jammed together in a row and thus you're less likely to miss a throw. The problem is though, many times I'd already be pretty low on health, and this is one of the few levels in the game where there's no body armor, therefore no way to restore health. So, after quite a significant amount of deaths, I finally got a good game plan together. First, rush these initial guys. I had to be literally perfect with my throws here, and I finally got through the first room without taking too much damage. At the start of the second room, I took out the first guard by angling myself through the door so the other guards couldn't see me and took him out. With a quick barrage of throws, I took out the armored guy here. I then angled myself behind the indestructible crate and with a totally blind throw took out one of the guards. I'm pretty sure I couldn't repeat that even if I tried. This angle behind the crate though was pretty solid for positioning, so I took out the other guards in this room behind here also. This had started off well, but I was now below half health, which wasn't good. The follow-up corridor, as I mentioned, was easier to clear, but still not without sustaining some damage. Oh, also I had to destroy the brake panels on the way, but I didn't want to break the flow to highlight that. I don't know if I just got lucky here, but getting through the next few carriages went off without any real hitches. We now move into these green rooms ahead with a lot of these black armor guys. They're all armed with double guns and do a lot of damage and can survive multiple knives. Taking them out quick is essential to not getting ganged up on, but by this point my health was looking really low. With all of them somehow taken out and the brake panels all destroyed, I could move into the final room of the level. I go in, take slightly too long trying to aim a knife at Uramov, and Natalia dies. Mission failed. After all of that. Needless to say, I was pretty upset at this point. Anyway, after getting all the way back there and not choking on the knife throw, Natalia lives, but now we have to destroy the latches on the floor and escape the train before it blows up. The knives obviously don't work, so we have to use the watch laser. This isn't really related to the throwing knife aspect of this run, but god did I struggle to do this. The aiming controls were very unruly, and several times I swear I lasered a latch and it just didn't go, once again causing me to fail the level. Finally, after doing all of that yet again, I lasered almost all of it somehow way quicker than the time limit required, and after about 3 hours, this level is finally over. I really had to train myself to play differently there. But speaking of trains, we're currently riding the subs train to try and reach 200,000 subscribers by the end of the year. If you're enjoying the video, why not consider helping us with this goal? You'll also help support the creation of more runs like this and be notified when they drop. Thank you, I appreciate you all. With that hell completed, we've now got the fresh hell that is the jungle level. We've got sentry guns and a lot of soldiers here. Now, this sounds like it's going to be pretty bad, but we actually have a secret weapon here. Natalia. No, really. They've actually armed her with a Cougar Magnum for this level, and she's surprisingly effective with it. No joke, my strategy for some parts of this level was just stand behind a tree and let Natalia kill the soldiers. Natalia is the best Bond girl confirmed, you heard it here first folks. At one point, I saw her get shot repeatedly in the head with an assault rifle, only for her to casually roll forward and shoot and kill the soldier. That is peak comedy. But of course, when we reach this bridge, we're confronted by Xenia, who's armed with a grenade launcher and an RCP-90. Now, you're probably thinking, how the hell are you going to survive and take her out using just knives? Well, I'm not. Natalia is. You see, despite the fact Natalia shot Xenia repeatedly, Xenia didn't seem to have any interest in attacking her whatsoever, so I just ran away, avoiding fire as best I could, and eventually... yeah. Natalia soloing Xenia was not something I had on my bingo card for this run, but here we are. Most of the rest of the level was fairly uneventful, just taking out the guards slowly and Natalia occasionally calling me a loser for some reason. The only bit that presented some difficulty was this final section, as there were a lot of guards here who had crates to take cover behind. In the end, I decided to just go through and hope for the best. The first few times it didn't really go so well, but finally, despite having a tiny fraction of health remaining, I made it to the elevator and ran inside to at last end the level. My performance in the jungle, I'd say, was a fine effort. But now the fun stops. The level I had been dreading the most ever since I decided to do this run. Fun fact, back in the day, this was the only level I never completed on 00 Agent, and it's actually all because of one section. I'm pretty sure you know the one, but let's talk about that in a little bit. On the plus side, the soundtrack for this level is an absolute banger, including this amazing James Bond elevator music at the start. So, for the first section, there is no running through. Natalia will not come out of the lift until you've killed all the guards. I take them all out by feeding them some tasty knives, and Natalia now comes out to activate the console. There's a veritable onslaught of guards ahead, armed with machine guns and grenades. I ended up just running through this section, but then turned around at these stairs and used the narrow walkway to take out the guards chasing me. I then lured these guards out the door and took them out quickly. Boris was up ahead, who kindly gave me a gun which I of course will not use. On the top floor of this room, there is thankfully some hidden body armor which we desperately needed. With that, we bring Natalia into this room for the dreaded section. We have to protect her while she hacks the console. As you might expect, a lot of guards come, and Natalia has a lot less health here than she did in the jungle level. It seems like 2 or 3 shots finishes her off here. There are a couple of tricks that help though. Firstly, the guards with the hats will mainly target you, while the guards with no hats will go straight for Natalia to try and kill her. As such, prioritizing taking those guards out is crucial to success here. But missing even one knife throw on these guys can give them enough time to take Natalia out. This was probably the most frustrating part of the run so far. I'd have attempts where I'd do so well taking out the guards only to miss that one knife throw and see Natalia drop dead. It took a lot of attempts, and I almost felt like I just got lucky eventually, not missing any of my knife throws. Seeing that objective complete text in the bottom corner honestly never felt sweeter. Now, all that was left to do was blow up these mainframes. Most of them are easy, but this one in the room with the gun turrets was pretty annoying. I ended up shooting the turrets as there just wasn't a way to get past them, and I hadn't been counting them as enemies so far anyway, so I'd say this is alright. With them all blown up, I ran through and just barely made it to the lift. We're really rocking and controlling now. Thankfully, we get a little bit of a reprieve now with the caverns level. This one is another where we just need to get to the end of the level. Now, sure, the guards are well armed and have fast shooting, high damaging weapons, but with a few swift knives, I'm able to dispatch quite a few of them. I did take quite a lot of heavy fire here, but the only thing I really needed to ensure I do was kill the guard who had the key card I needed, grab the body armor in this room, and then run like hell, taking out these last 2 guards before the door, run past the drone, watch Trevelyan disappear into thin air for some reason, and then enter this lift right before I die. This one was a bit easy, but after those previous levels, I feel I've caverned a break. With that, we've made it to the last story mission of the game, Cradle. The start of this level is pretty harsh in that it starts you on a narrow walkway with guards shooting you from a distance. It goes without saying, there's no way the knives are going to reach that far, so I just had to run and pray I got there without getting shot too much. I then grabbed some body armor from below, went and blew up the console, and then pursued Trevelyan. He runs all over the place, even back up to the top, which I don't remember him doing. At least I hit him with some knives on the way. Eventually, we get him to go down these stairs and drop down to the tiny platform from the movie. Despite nearly dying and getting knocked off by his gunfire, one final knife is enough to get revenge on Trevelyan. The final story mission is complete using throwing knives only to kill enemies. But there is still a little more of this game to delve into. Because yes, Goldeneye has 2 secret missions. The first of them is Aztec, taken from the Bond movie Moonraker starring Roger Moore. This is often labelled as one of, if not the worst Bond movies of all time, so kinda weird that of all things, this is what they decided to put in as a secret level. It's also probably in contention for the hardest level in the game. The level starts with you coming out of a gap with guards on both sides of you. With our slow firing speed, getting past this bit without taking damage is nigh on impossible. Then you go through a narrow tunnel coming out to 4 more guards, all blasting you with machine guns. Even on really good attempts where I did manage to take out these 3 guards at the beginning with minimal damage, I have no idea how you're supposed to get through this corridor without taking damage from the gunner firing in the distance. Perhaps if I had some actual range I could take him out? One thing I did find out, which I'm pretty sure I never knew playing this level as a teenager, is you can drop down the gap by this bridge here. This route has a whole load of guards on the way and actually takes you up to the room where Jaws is. Now, what was really bizarre is for some reason I killed Jaws in 1 knife. Is that some kind of glitch? I remember him being the original bullet sponge, taking a huge amount of shots to bring down, yet here he gets felled by a single knife? Something's gotta be off with that. In any case, I gotta come clean. This was the only level on this run I was not able to complete. There's so many guards, all armed with assault rifles that absolutely nuke your health very rapidly. Even running down to the bridge lost me numerous health bars. The issue with being stunned while shot really came into play here, and that was probably the biggest factor in not being able to get past a lot of this. The farthest I ever got was managing to kill Jaws, but by this point my health was so depleted that the next onslaught of guards always took me out before I could do anything else. There is 1 body armor a little further in the level, but it's past a room guarded by auto turrets and yeah. Not saying this is impossible, but I couldn't do it. I'll have to just take the L here. But fear not, because there's still 1 level remaining, and it's really bizarre. The level is called Egyptian, and I've got a lot to say about this one. So, full disclosure, I have actually never played this level before. To unlock this level, you had to beat every other mission on 00 Agent. Remember how I mentioned earlier I never managed to do control on 00 Agent? So yeah, I never unlocked it. If you're wondering how I'm playing it now, well, a wizard did it. Anyway, I'm excited to finally play it after all this time. But I feel like it's worth discussing this level's oddities first. While all the other levels are based on locations from the movie Goldeneye, apart from Aztec, which is based on a location from Moonraker, this level is an amalgamation of several movies. It features the Golden Gun, from The Man with the Golden Gun, the character Baron Samedi from Live and Let Die, and it's set in Egypt, which is a location from The Spy Who Loved Me. What do all those movies have in common? They're all Roger Moore movies. So with Aztec also being based on a Roger Moore movie, Moonraker, all the secret levels in this game are Roger Moore centric. Were Rare big fans of the Roger Moore James Bond? It certainly seems so. They couldn't have put more references to him in here if they tried. Anyway, let's get on to the actual level. There's a few guards near the beginning that are pretty easy to take out, and then heading right takes you to this room with the golden gun, which we need to grab to complete the first objective. But as you go near the case to get it, these 4 drone guns appear out from behind these pillars and start blasting you. I thought initially I needed to destroy them, but despite repeatedly shooting them, the drone guns don't seem to take any damage and seemingly can't be destroyed. So, cards on the table, I for the life of me could not figure out what the hell to do here. Every time I got to this room, the guns came out and blasted me down. So, as I was approaching the end, I turned to the internet to find out the answer. It turns out that there's a specific way you need to walk across the floor tiles in the room when you enter. If you activate the drone guns, it's basically game over and you need to restart the level, as far as I could see, there doesn't appear to be a way to reset them. You need to enter the room, move 2 squares left, 2 squares forward, 4 squares right, 2 squares forward, 1 square left, 1 square up, 1 square left, and finally forward again, and the case will open for you to pick up the golden gun. How the actual fuck would anyone ever figure that out? As far as I can tell, there is absolutely no clue anywhere in the briefing for this mission or in the level itself that suggests that the floor causes the drones to come out or that you need to walk across it in a specific way. Back in 1997, unless you read this in a walkthrough in a gaming magazine, you'd have to figure out each square by trial and error, having to restart the level each time you made a wrong move, and that's if you even did figure out that the floor was causing that to happen. It could just have easily been a switch in another room you needed to activate to get rid of the guns. And look, I know there's going to be somebody in the comments who says that they figured this out first try with their eyes closed while poisonous cobras bit their feet, and to you, yes, well done, have a medal, and some anti-venom also. As for me, and the rest of the world, we'll continue being confused. Anyway, bloody hell, that was a long rambling segue. With the golden gun in hand, we can now go fight Baron Samedi. I mean, obviously we're not going to use the golden gun, we've got our trusty knives. That's probably the first time I've mentioned knives in about 5 minutes thanks to those segues. On first encounter, he's wielding 2 DD-44 pistols. His AI kinda seems a bit janky. At some points he just stands and then takes a single step to the side after getting hit. Odd. Anyway, after enough knives, he dies. Well, not really. He actually now appears in a different part of the temple. His guns now shoot as if they're ZMGs, despite still looking like the pistols. Is that supposed to be some kind of magic, or was that just a mistake from the devs? Who knows. So with him downed again, we enter his final location in this small room. Now his pistols behave like Moonraker lasers, which is extremely random. He appears to have a lot more health now, as I chucked a huge amount of knives into his neck, but he just wouldn't go down. I also got swarmed by a bunch of guards, which didn't help matters. How many knives to the neck can this guy take? Eventually, after a veritable tidal wave of knives and a fair few deaths on my part, this Baron Sama dies. Or does he? We're treated to this cutscene where Bond walks away and we see the Baron running after him, followed by an extended shot of him laughing. Okay then, I guess I'll do me and voodoo you. Oh, also, this is the point where you guys can comment, fun fact, you can actually shoot Baron Samedi during the cutscene with a second controller. Go on, I know you want to. With that, the run is complete. It was really a trip to come back to this game after all these years. The throwing knives here were okay, but really, you probably just want to use a gun. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching this very out of left field video. I've been JK Leeds. See ya, and have a good one.